Suboxone.
I just want to say up front, seek a medical professional before you take any advice from anybody. This is purely my subjective experience, and I'm only encouraging you to maybe take a step and get some help. For those of you who are in active addiction. And those of you who aren't, this is here to educate you inside the mind and experience from one person. Hope it helps you guys.
What's going on, guys? Big Derek, Big D, Derek Lambert. Don't care what you call me. I'm just here to give you guys what I know, what I've experienced. Go from there. Suboxone. 8 milligram, little orange, flat slivers. You stick under your tongue. A lot of people cut them into little slices. And after a while, they start to give you this weird headache. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but I know that I went through a lot of those headache moments from taking too much of it because you just want to alleviate the pain. There's a buddy of mine who's actually on YouTube. I want you guys to go check him out. You're going to see his channel on the screen at Andrew T. Andrew T. He's new. New channel. He's 7 days clean. This video that he does right here called What is Heroin Withdrawal Like? Well, I wanted to plug him because he said something that I never emphasized, I guess, pertaining to withdrawals, right? We all want that instant effect, right? Withdrawals, we want to feel better now. He brought up something interesting, even though we're going to talk about the Suboxone and how the Suboxone is a partial agonist and not a full agonist like heroin, like painkillers, like other opioids, fentanyl, morphine, you name it. Percocet, you know, the stuff that we've all used, at least if you're an opioid user. The Suboxone, I've also heard people who's taken it to get off coke, meth, you name it. And it's like, but I also know people who used coke, meth while doing Suboxone. It doesn't really block out the same stuff that the opioids does. So it's not as fun, I guess, because why do we do things? For the effect, for the way they make us feel. Let's cut to the chase. Let's not play this. Well, let's not talk about that. No, I'm going to just shoot it to you straight. The reason why we do these things is to feel better. And there's underlying problems as to why we do them. He said something very interesting. I had to nail this damn thing on the wall and let you guys see what I'm talking about. You know, we talk about withdrawals and how it feels like a cold, right? Like you have a serious cold. Now, I am not kidding when I say my downstairs is colder than my upstairs, but I wrap myself up in this blanket all the time because it gets cold. But you know that feeling when you have a fever and you're cold and you tuck yourself into a little fetal position. I'm going to back up so you guys know what I'm talking about. You get in a fetal position and you're so sick from the flu that you don't want to move, you want to stay warmer, but your temp is rising so much and you're cold and you just want to stay in that moment and I guess try to get comfortable, but you're not. And you just want to stay warm. It's very difficult to explain, but if you've had the flu, then you can tell what I'm talking about, okay? You know what I'm saying. Multiply that, okay? I can't say 100, okay? But it's bad because the mental terror is what really screws you on top of the fact that you're physically withdrawing, which he brings up the point that there's two types of withdrawals. When he said that, immediately I thought to myself, you know what? There are two types because you have an acute withdrawal, which is the pain, the suffering, the kicks, the nerve, and that lasts for a window they say can last something like 72 hours, something like that. I felt like that the worst withdrawals happened and then they went away and then they came back slowly but not as bad and it kind of went back and forth. But there was nothing like the first night. But I'm going to tell you why there was nothing like the first night. My last time using, I took Suboxone. Okay, I took Suboxone. I took a half a strip at this lady's house. This is why I count my sobriety date or clean date, whatever you want to call it, depending on whatever your preference is, okay? I just say that I haven't done drugs since October the 25th, 2015, and that's a fact. I mean, other than caffeine. So... and Benadryl and caffeine, and let's see, antibiotics from when I've been sick. That's about it. So when I took this piece of Suboxone, it put me in a precipitated withdrawals. It forced me into a withdrawal, which is even more intense than just gradually letting the withdrawal come on. I took this piece because I thought, well, you know what, maybe I'll feel better. This is why when people ask me all the time, when do I need to take my Suboxone for withdrawal, I always preference go talk to a doctor. When I went to go speak to a doctor one time to get on methadone or Suboxone or Subutex, because you're out of your mind, you just want to feel better and you're tired of doing the things you're doing to get the drugs. When I went, he asked me how long I'd been clean. You always lie or want to lie. And, I would, but either way, he would look and know I'm not in full-blown withdrawal. This is why they don't want you doing it, because they really want to look out for you, because it's going to suck if you do it. It will force you into withdrawal, and the pain is no joke. And I can't imagine, for people who do it a lot more than me, a lot more opioids than I did, how the pain would be forcing yourself into withdrawal at that point. Excruciating pain. This gentleman here also mentioned something about the whole flu thing, right? Well, he said the difference between the heroin withdrawal and the flu is, with the flu, there is no immediate symptom. You can fix it. With heroin, or whatever the opioid might be, you know that doing the dope will instantly fix that pain, and that is why it sucks so bad. Whereas with a cold flu, you're taking airborne, and you're taking Tylenol, and you're trying to get an antibiotic in you or whatever, and you're trying, and you know that you can't, there's nothing to get rid of that flu, okay? With opioids, you get that flu knowing there's the thing that can get you unsick. And that is what makes it very difficult when you're physically withdrawing. Why I always said early on, you need to be physically removed. Recommend you go to a rehab, detox center, something, a facility, a medical facility. That's my recommendation. Back to Suboxone. I knew my mother-in-law took Suboxone for a very long time. Not prescribed, always off the street. Not always. She had gone to methadone clinics and gone to Suboxone doctors, but she was taking it for a long time. And she went down to the point where she would take the very sliver of your nail. Like just bite the tip of your nail off, right? That small of a piece, and it would work for her. Any more and she'd throw up and be sick all day in her house. I don't recall getting throw up sick unless I got a lot of Suboxone in me and then would do a lot of heroin or Opana or whatever I would do to try and intensify it. Why would you do it on top of taking something that has that receptor blocker in there that's keeping you from getting the high that you want to get, because it's blocking out the opioids? That's what makes Suboxone so special, is that it's there to try and block out the opioids, right? And I would do the opioids and the Suboxone. Of course, I feel like dog crap afterwards, because look, I ended up wasting my money buying this pill or heroin and did it on top of my Suboxone, and knew, well, I should have just waited, because I'd have felt the actual drug when the Suboxone wore off. And I'd flip-flop between Suboxone if I didn't have drugs, and I'd detox, and I'd take Suboxone to try to feel better, then that would withdraw off, and then I'd go to use drugs. So I wasn't using this stuff properly. Obviously, I know some people who've got their lives back doing it. You can only imagine why I didn't want to keep doing it. Has it saved my ass at times? Yeah. But I also chased that little morning. I had to have that Suboxone. I had to have that thing. And there was a moment in my life when I was taking the Suboxone. I was working a job. I had it together somewhat in my mind. And I was doing the right thing. But I remember, I'd get up, I'd get my Suboxone, I could get my coffee, but I would go outside and I'd want my cigarette, and I'd kind of chase this little bit of a buzz that it would give me. A little warm fuzzy in my tummy. It's like anyone who's not done any heroin or opioids or Suboxone or anything, imagine the coffee buzz you get, except a little more. Now, some people always make the excuse, oh no, I don't ever get a buzz. I never got a buzz. I never did get a buzz from my methadone or my Suboxone. And it's somewhat true, but it's not. And I'm going to say why it's not true. All right, it's not true because they don't do it. They do it, yes, they want to feel normal, okay? But they weren't getting high, but they were when they were doing the heroin and the Opanas. I know that sounds confusing. At the end, I wasn't getting high doing the heroin. I just wanted to feel normal. But when you did it at that level, there was no normal. You would do it and go to a point where your eyes are rolling in the back of your head and you're almost unconscious to the point of overdosing. You don't feel normal. You're out of like being aware. And so I would do it to that point. And then I would take the Suboxone, of course, and I would feel what felt normal. However, I'd have this slight energy. Kind of like when you go back to the points when you first started doing Percocet, for those of you who've ever done painkillers, or any type of Loracet, Percocet, Vicodin, you name it, the small energy buzz that you would get. There's like a slight little bit of an energy, like an excitement type energy. I don't know if this is something you relate to me on, but another aspect, and I'm an alcoholic as well, so this is what I kind of want to say, is it's a depressant. These painkillers are depressants. They're downers, right? Alcohol is also a downer. How come I turned into a werewolf, got all this energy, wanted to act wild when I drank, when others could chill, relax, enjoy themselves, and then go back to bed? I wanted all this energy, so it did something for me. Same with the painkillers. The Suboxone, I had a normal life. I did for a little bit when I did this. Suboxone, and I done Subutex. Both of them I was doing somewhat way better than I ever was on the street. I told myself though, do I really want to keep doing this? And that's what it boiled down to for me. But if you have to make that decision, don't do the dumb stuff that I was doing. Okay? Get involved in something and stick with it, right? That warm coffee buzz you would get in the morning, I try to equate that to what you would get from the Suboxone, because it is a partial agonist. It's not the full-blown what you would get euphoria from an opioid. In fact, most people who've ever used opioids know, as they've done the opioids, they get this full satisfaction somewhat to the mind, this euphoria that takes place. I think the receptors are taking in, these opioid receptors are really taking in what it's supposed to get, and they feel this fulfillment. And when they go from that to the Suboxone, they feel like it's almost like a downgrade. You're like, man, it makes you content, but you're not really happy. So when you do it for a week or two now, now you flip-flopped and you're content with the Suboxone. It does the job. But you don't feel as bad as you did early on, because you went from way up here to mediocre. If you went from here and didn't do Suboxone, you're going to go down real quick. But your body will start to heal and repair itself. You sit on your couch, do absolutely nothing, and think you're going to detox at home and everything's just going to get better. You are the most lucky person in the world if that ever happens to you. Because I didn't do that. Everyone looks at me like, oh, it was so easy for you, Derek. Not everybody's like you, and that's true. Not everybody is like me, but you made it look so easy, and it's not that easy. It wasn't easy. But after I got out of it, guys, go back and check my channel out, right? So the first day 5 and day 7, those are recorded. I did another video with Kurt outside of an AA meeting. I was feeling sticky, nasty. Kurt was really in the funk. Okay, he was more closer to the acute withdrawals. I was already coming out of the worst, but I felt better throughout the days. And at nights is when I would suffer. Now, I had 4 videos within that first 30 days that I did. And when I did my day 31, I knew I had made it. I was like, okay, I can do this. At 31 days, I really believe I can. I had my doubts, of course, but I was going to meetings all the time. I was sticking on a program, doing what I thought was best for me to stay clean, and I did. Guys, this route that I took, being abstinent, was very difficult. That's why I had to have a support system. A lot of people use the alternate substances as a crutch or as a support system so that they don't go do drugs. And a lot of them that I've heard will say, hey, I've got a job. I can't lose this job. Or there's other priorities that matter. And don't get me wrong, I get things matter. Don't get me wrong. But for me, it was life and death. So I had to make the decisions I did. And I didn't have a job. I had ran out of being able to keep a job, guys. I was long past that. I was living on couches. We would go into pawn shops, still, just an example, we'd go to a pawn shop, we would steal an amplifier that would amplify your 10s, 12s, subwoofers or whatever, and then go to another pawn shop to pawn it. We'd pawn stolen items from pawn shops to other pawn shops. It was just insane. We would try to con people, you name it. And those are stories that you're not proud of, but they're there to kind of let people know that, hey, I wear the scars too, and I know the darkness. I just want you guys to know that I've made it out, and I have transformed. You can too. That's pretty much the goal of this whole thing, is just to let you know, like, keeping it 100 with you. I've been there. I have. Now, I didn't go so far as to give, selling my body and doing all that kind of stuff. I've heard some people who have, and no judgment whatsoever, because this thing is no joke. But I've heard them say, I got a job. I can't lose this job. They're in the middle of an intense heroin addiction, opioid addiction, fentanyl addiction, opana addiction, painkiller addiction, cocaine addiction, meth addiction, you name it, sex addiction, whatever that might be, right? Whatever. Just giving you an example. And they go, well, I need to get on a substance. I need to get on like kratom, Suboxone, methadone, something like that. Vivitrol, I don't look at it as bad, personally. That once a month shot that's supposed to help with the receptors, I don't look at it as nearly as bad as a constant maintenance type thing. If it works for you, I don't know. But I've never had experience with this, so I can't speak on it. I have no ills to say about it or goods. I can say if you don't go and stay and commit, you will relapse, because Kurt did. He got a shot, he was drinking, he was doing all this stuff, and by the time the end of that 30 days was up, he was already back doing what he was doing. He might have been doing it before that. So I'm just keeping it real with you. I know I keep rabbit trailing, but it's important that I kind of convey some of this stuff so you see where I'm going with this. They always approach me for help. They wanted my advice, and then they're like, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go get Suboxone. Suboxone might work, but if that's your crutch and that's your support system is just Suboxone, and you think, well, I'm just going to do this and I'll be fine, I recommend people, places, and things that you focus on getting good people, places, and things around, because that should help you. And ultimately, one day if you decide to come off the Suboxone, what is your support system? What do you have to lean on? Since you leaned on the Suboxone to get off the streets, what do you have to lean on? I know a lot of great people who are still doing the Suboxone, who are in recovery, who are trying to get clean off of that, and they get close while they start weaning down, and their emotions are overwhelming, their anxiety is overwhelming, the same thing you feel in a way, but not nearly as intense as it was when you're coming off heroin. However, when you've been that far separated from what a withdrawal really feels like, from painkillers, to the point when you're coming off the actual Suboxone, it feels close, because you're not used to constant, trying to keep this habit going. I withdraw every other week, at least a couple days, and you're fighting to try and keep your drugs. You know what a withdrawal feels like. It's been years since you felt real withdrawal. And here you are about to face some type of withdrawal. It's a scary place to be. Don't do it alone. Go to a detox center. But I don't want to. I'm going to lose my job. Listen, that's up to you. Do you really think it's worth it? For me, I was going to die. I was going to die. That's why I was willing to go try Suboxone, was willing to try Subutex, was willing to try methadone, because anything that would help me, I thought these would help me. And I did try, and I was successful at times with Suboxone and Subutex. Methadone, I did not, but I've heard of success stories. But for real, did I want to keep doing this? No. Sorry for rabbit trailing, guys, and giving you such a long video. Make sure you go subscribe to Old Boy's channel. He has you can tell he knows what he's talking about, and he's well articulated. He explains things very well, and I'm interested to hear more on his story. That's Andrew T, and he's new. He's got it. He's like me, dude. He had his phone out. He has his phone somewhere. The quality shows you it's a phone. That's how my first videos were. It's a phone. He's sitting on the couch, and man, he is speaking. I have flashbacks. I'm back 4 years ago, and I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, man, yeah, I'm actually going to reach out to him and get his number if he's willing to talk, because I really, really relate to what he was saying, and he said something so powerful about the flu thing, and then he's talking about how Suboxone even takes time and it doesn't kick in instantly. I remember that, sitting there dying, laying in bed, waiting for it to freaking just hit me, and you have to wait 30, 45 minutes. Now there's ways to cheat that. And I knew people who did some dumb stuff. Take the Suboxone, put it into your little toothpaste cap, add water, let the water dissolve it, and then they'd sniff it. It's crazy shit. I know people who were shooting up Suboxone. They would melt it down into liquid through the water, and then they would inject it. How insane do we have to get, right? I don't know how that person's doing, and I will not mention his name, but I know that I'll put it like this, he wasn't as crazy as he was on the street, even though he was doing that. But, I mean, do you want your life back, right? I know I did. I wanted my life back, and today I have my life back, and some days are not that good, but I know how to deal with it, man. It's so difficult, and I just hope you guys get it. I'm going to shut up now. I hope that's enough for you. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Like, share, subscribe this thing. Derek Lambert. Peace.